the opportunity to have Adam Schefter joining us. And Adam Schefter joins us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Bounce forward.
And he's brought to us by our friends at DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Check it out for the big game this weekend.
Adam, I want to know when you saw the video from the Nick Sirianni press conference, if you were watching it live or you watched it later, your initial gut reaction just to watching him behind the microphone.
Well, I didn't watch it live, and I only saw snippets of the entire press conference, really the one snippet that I think was trending on social media, I guess.
Yes, it was.
And I guess I would say, look, here's the deal. Some people are just not entirely comfortable stepping into that spot right away, and it takes a little bit of an adjustment. And obviously, here's somebody that worked in Indianapolis. How many press conferences like that do you think he ever had? Probably zero. Probably zero, right?
Yes, maybe on a field, like a huddle on the field where the press sort of surround him and he answered some questions.
It's just a different deal. Like, I'll give you an example. My job is to report news on television. There's nothing about it at this stage of my life that makes me nervous. But when I was asked to go back to Michigan to address the football team, I couldn't sleep the night before.
Wow.
I was all wired up.
Yeah.
And even you get up there and your heart's pounding a little bit because it's different. And I haven't spoken to Nick Sirianni since that press conference before, but my guess would be that he was nervous. He was a little nervous for that because it's uncomfortable. It's different. You're not in an area in which you are entirely familiar. And that'll come. That'll come. That's not going to be an issue.
By the way, that was our overwhelming opinion unanimously on the show.
Yeah.
We weren't going to read too much into it on a press conference because we've seen good press conferences from guys that end up not performing.
Right. Schefty, I got to ask you about this Jared Goff trade that we just saw happen, him going over to the Lions. Is there something we can take out of that makes a Carson Wentz trade more I don't want to say more possible, more likely?
No, not more likely, because they're not going to trade him unless they get back fair value. And what I would say is the issue there is that the Eagles will want strong compensation for a guy that a few years ago could have won the NFL MVP. They will want strong conversation. And let me say this, that they will listen, absolutely listen. And if a team makes the right offer, there will be a trade that will be made. But if a team doesn't make the right offer, I think that they'll be open to bringing him back and having him compete in camp with Jalen Hurts. So to me, it could go either way.
We've gone back and forth, Adam, about the idea that he still hasn't spoken or hasn't even released a statement or hasn't even at this point, now that the new coach isn't...
That tells you something.
It does. It tells me that the leader of the franchise, the guy who's supposed to be the face of the franchise, somehow is disconnected from the franchise.
And wants to leave the franchise. Okay? And that's why the trade still is in play. And again, people wondering, where did this stuff come from at the end of the year? Was it made? This is all real. And this was made up. Right? And just because he would like to be moved or hasn't come doesn't mean he will be. If I had to guess, I would guess he is traded. That'd be my guess. Okay, at some point this offseason. But again, they're not just going to trade him. They're not looking to get rid of him. They're not.
So, Adam, on that front, what do you think now? We got a little indication of the market with the Stafford Goff trade. Not a full picture, obviously. So, in your best guesstimation, what is your opinion on what the Eagles would consider in the ballpark of fair value?
That's a great question. I would say, and I don't know this, but just off the top of my head, I'm guessing it would be a minimum of a first-round draft pick. A minimum. And, of course, they're going to want more. They might be asking or want 2 first-round picks, for all I know. Okay? I want to be very clear. I don't know what but I would say they'd want a minimum of a first-round draft pick. And that's the issue. If you are a team that is thinking of trading, are you willing to give up a 1 plus? Are you willing to do that for Carson Wentz? You tell me.
I don't know that people be lining up to do that, but Adam, I know this. When you talk to people around the NFL and in circles, and you're just having conversations and the name comes up, Indy is where we always hear, well, there's a connection with Frank Reich and the Indianapolis Colts, that makes the total sense.
Yep.
Can you tell me the other franchise or any other franchises whose name pops up when the name Carson Wentz pops up?
I'd like to know that, John, because I think there are more.
Okay. Because you're not hearing any specific name that has come to any franchise.
Well, let me say this. I have my own educated opinion. I'm not going to guess because I don't know.
Okay.
But I have a couple of ideas of teams that potentially could be interested, but I don't know. Someone
tossed out to me Chicago yesterday. Said, keep my eyes on Chicago, and I'm going, I don't know if that fits or not, because I don't know if the head coach is on firm enough ground to be able to say that would be a good match there.
Well, if the head coach believes in the quarterback, then you go do it. Look, here's the deal. Chicago's going to make a quarterback move this offseason at some point. I mean, they called on Matthew Stafford. So
sure.
I don't know whether it's Matthew Stafford or Carson Wentz or Tyrod Taylor. I mean, you pick the quarterback, but they've got to have another quarterback. So, I don't know where they are on the Carson Wentz list.
Schefty, this has to be the oddest season that you've ever covered in the NFL with everything going on outside of it. Mm-hmm. So, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs meeting in the Super Bowl, does that lend to some sort of normalcy of, okay, what should have been has happened?
No, I don't think so. And I say that just because it's such a weird week in every which way. Like, I'm in my house. It's Super Week. I'm shoveling
crazy
2 hours. You know, like I'm thinking, I keep going outside. I'm like, the hell, man. I should be in Tampa.
Wait a minute. No, Adam, I'm not going to get into your bank account. But are you telling me that you can't have somebody on call that could do that for you?
No, John. I am a man of the people. I shovel my job.
Man of the people. Now, your time in Denver, did that just become part of what you were used to and what you love to do? Do you enjoy doing this?
No, it has nothing to do with my time in Denver, although I still, whenever it snows, I can't help but think back to a storm that I went back to. I guess it had to be the early 2000s. I'm not exactly sure when. I'd have to go into my journal and look. But there was a time there where it snowed literally for over 2.5 straight days. I remember it was the weekend of an NCAA tournament. It was 36 inches of snow. I had never seen anything like it. It was unbelievable. There were people slaloming through the streets of the of my neighborhood. It was incredible. And so this was a lot of snow. We must have gotten here probably, I would say, I don't know, 12, 14 inches here in New York. But the real kick is, like, everything was shoveled. Like, I cleared up my whole walk area, and I wake up this morning, and there's a whole other blanket of like an inch or whatever. Like, well, come on, man.
Wait, Jamie and I just perked up at the same thing, though. You said you'd have to go back into your journal and see how many journals do you have? Because if you're going back to 2000, how many journals do you have, and where do you keep them? How do you keep them safe?
I have every day of my life documented going back to 1990. Every single day.
I'm completely fascinated by this.
On my computer.
On the computer?
Yeah, every single day.
And what's a daily entry? Like, how long?
Pretty long.
Really?
I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's just become a part of my day. Oh, yeah, no, I wrote a lot about this in the book. But
yes.
And people are like, well, what do you do? What do you doc? It's not like it's real deep meaning. It like, hey, got up at 6:30, we play with the puppies. If someone makes a joke that's memorable, you put that in. If there was a special moment, you put that in. Did Philly radio with the guys at 8:10. Yeah, just kind of
wow.
You know what? And it really, the reason I do it is, when I wrote the book, and I was writing with the great writer Michael Rosenberg, he was like, "Can you give me the week of your wedding? Can you give me the week of, when you moved to New York from college?" Yeah, here it is. And I'll go back in there first of all, I'd recommend it to everybody. When I spoke to Twitter, I spoke to the Twitter group about my book. It's funny you asked this, John. That topic at the Journal came up, and it basically was the topic for almost a full hour.
Yeah, fascinating. It's a fascinating approach. I know you had done things like you're a writer by trade,
right? And so there are so many positives to it that you would never think until you actually do it. It's almost like the equivalent of working out every day. Like people find a half hour or an hour to go do something physical, and this is a mental writing exercise. And what it does is, I don't know when it'll happen, and maybe it won't much ever happen, but sometimes I'll be like, oh, let me go back and read the last 10 birthdays. Let me go back and, like, where was I when I went to Philadelphia for the draft? Where do we have dinner that Saturday night?
Wow.
I love that. And what happened there? And you see things, and you read, like, I'm just telling you, I was going back, what did I have to get for somebody? And I'm reading about dates I had with women. I'm like, who's Jill? Like, like what's that?
There were so many of them, Schefty. You lost track.
I mean, I love this idea.
Another Jill.
Adam, we found out this morning. We always get interesting information from you, but we found out this morning that you are maybe too cerebral for this show. That's awesome. That's a great thing. I may try it for a month.
I would. Well, and one of the biggest things is you go back and read, and you may be up all night thinking about a problem in school or at work or whatever. You go back, you're reading, and you realize sometimes how insignificant
there you go.
So many things that you worry about are.
Great job. Thanks.